sports are a part of your identity. You're breathing, eating, sleeping that sport every single day for years on end, and then all of a sudden it isn't there anymore.
I miss it so much. I'm allowed to miss playing, but sometimes you have to let go of things that just aren't any fun anymore. You're self-deprecating and you're too much in your head. You're unfocused. You look sad. You look upset with yourself. You don't look like your head's in the game, and that's what's losing it for you. But then I've seen male players do the same thing. It's like, oh, he's so streamlined. He's really thinking. I can't imagine the wheels that are turning in his head right now, but he's also just being quiet. So I'm being pathetic and I have poor body language and I'm self-deprecating, but he's sitting there and he's a genius. I think it's important to say, remove the name, remove the prestige, remove how great the team is. Do you think that you will have fun at that school? It's so much more fun showing up to a 6 a.m. lift when you know that you're one of the better players on the team. Especially being in the WNBA, people are already saying horrible things all the time about this isn't real basketball, or you see the average 5'6", 19-year-old guy saying, I could 1v1 her and I'd win by 30.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Game Change Her. I am so delighted to present to you our very first guest podcast episode. Today's guest has navigated the world of student athletics with dedication, from playing multiple sports in high school to competing in varsity D3 tennis at Stevens. She's been playing sports since kindergarten, balancing both basketball and tennis through high school before focusing on tennis in college. Her story touches on discipline, burnout, boundaries, and learning when to let go of something that no longer serves you. We dive into what it really means to find balance, how she's navigated double standards in sports, and what choosing the right environment to grow in really looks like. So please welcome Isabella Dona.
Thank you for having me. I love to talk.
Amazing. So can you take us back to the beginning? What first sparked your connection to sports?
My parents just had me do pretty much everything when I was younger. So I remember I did Girl Scouts. I did soccer for a little bit. I did basketball starting second grade, and I think tennis around third. I was in art club, stuff that I no longer even touch. But for some reason, I stuck with basketball and tennis. I really, really liked it. I think especially around when I quit Girl Scouts, because that was my main source of hanging out with people, meeting new friends. All my friends that I have from home now are all my friends from Girl Scouts from kindergarten. So once that stopped, I had to continue with something to give me community, and it just happened to be basketball at that point.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I feel like, especially when you're young, having other people who are doing similar things and sort of being shaped in similar ways as you with the same activities that you're doing is really helpful. And when you have that sort of schedule to go to the same place at the same time every day, it gives you a sense of community as well as a young child. How was that schedule like for you to be balancing basketball and tennis through high school?
It was definitely a lot. My pretty much year would be tennis tryouts starting August, late August, and then it would be all tennis until about October, late November. But I'd still have to be playing basketball because I can't just lose it. So I'm doing stuff on the weekends for that. I would play AAU, so I'd have practice during the week, and then I'd have tournaments in Pennsylvania or just around New Jersey on Saturdays and Sundays. So it's pretty much just go, go, go. Then it's basketball season. So it flips. I have basketball all through the week, and then it's tennis that I'm doing supplementally, and I'd go to tournaments on the weekends. And then my off season was the spring, but it really wasn't because I was just doing both in the same capacity. So it's just working forever and ever, and then going back and forth. I was lucky that I got to play AAU and do my private tennis lessons at the same club, so it wasn't too much going around, but it's still it's a lot of time. It's a lot of physical effort. I would go to bed really late in the morning and my parents would get mad at me. I feel like everyone talks about when you're up in the middle of the night with your DS and you shove it under your pillow when your parents come. That was me just up doing my homework because I would have practice all night and then I gotta get this done somehow. So just a lot of that, just year by year by year.
Absolutely. And I think it's so hard to navigate that, especially because you already have so much on your plate as a student, but when you combine that with being an athlete, it's physical, it's mental, and also like emotional aspects of it come to light. And that's awesome to hear that you were able to do that so proficiently. What did your day to day look like then? Were you playing tennis and basketball in the same day sometimes? Was that a thing?
Definitely. I remember, especially eighth grade going into high school, trying to prepare because that's the only time I've had real tryouts in my life. I've been pretty blessed. I won't brag because I'm not the best at anything, but I would go for tryouts and no one would have ever played before. So I never actually had to be disciplined enough and like worried enough in my mind that I wouldn't make it until I got to high school because that's where everyone was coming from different towns. And I still went to public school, but we had the program where people could come in from wherever. So I'm like, I actually have real competition now. And at least my basketball team had some type of reputation to uphold. A couple of the girls went Division 1. It was the same coach for years and years and years. So I was like, I need to be on this. And my dad had something, he called it Project JV. In starting 7th to 8th grade, I would practice so hard and the mindset was that if I'm a 7th grader that's able to play at the level of the high school JV, I will be good. But so that's what ended up happening. But I would have that going on and then I'd have tennis typically in the same day. I would have basketball right after school for the school, and then I'd go to my private tennis. And then sometimes my tennis coach would say, oh, I have a group of these guys who are a year younger than you. Can you just stay for an hour and hit with them? So it's like extra work that I'm doing, which I'm grateful for, obviously, because it did make me better. But it's just so many hours a day.
For your dad to be like Project JV, I think that's so supportive and so refreshing to have that, because if you're aiming for here, even if you still fall a little bit, you'll still be better than most people your age. And I think that's so important to like hold yourself up to a higher standard, and learning that from a young age is also so incredibly important. Also to have that support system for someone to be there for you and be like, actually, this is what we're going to do and let's go, we got this, you know? Your coach asking you to stay and spar with other people. I mean, yeah, it's making you better, but like, you're like, I have homework to do.
Exactly. Like, would I rather do this than my homework? Yeah. Am I tired? Also, yeah. So I would like to go to bed, but
Yeah.
I'll take what I can get.
Absolutely. And I think back when I was in high school, for me as well, like I'd wake up at like 4:30, 5 a.m., go to coaching, go directly to school. I had like a sort of day boarding school where it'd end at 4. I would come back home, 5:30, practice again. And then when I'm back by like 9, I have to eat dinner, I have to still finish all the homework.
My parents now are like, why are you eating dinner at 11 o'clock at night? I've been doing this since I was like 7 because I get back so late. It's just what I'm used to.
Absolutely. And how do you think that like this changed when you switched over to just one sport in college?
I would say it's just as much work because it's especially playing in college. There's so much more that you need to be doing that you don't even think about, where it's okay, I have practice this many times a week I would have about 2 hours a day. But for me, I live a 25-minute walk from campus. So I have to get there 15 to 20 minutes early. So that's actually about 4 hours of my day, including stretching, taking care of myself after. And then we have mental health meetings where we talk about the stress of losing. How does that make you feel with someone that works at the school? That's another hour. And we have Lyft, another hour and a half. And it seems like it's going to be less, but it's really just as much, if not more. But it's all the same thing with the same people. So it feels even more daunting than just going back and forth. At least back when I had 2 sports, it was a little bit of variety and I got to see different people. I got to look forward to doing different things. Or I would get in my slumps with tennis where I'm just not playing well, and I could at least look forward to an hour from now, I'll be doing something that I'm good at right now.
Yeah, I hear you. I think it's really interesting how going from high school to college, the structure changes. I feel like stakes feel higher. You're doing your major, you're maybe thinking about getting a job. All of that also starts weighing on you as you're approaching junior year, senior year, that sort of thing. And suddenly it's all on you to stay on top of everything. And I feel like as athletes, we're pretty trained to be on top of our things because we need to physically be in different places and, you know, nourish ourselves and take care of ourselves beyond just the sport. Back in high school, you were juggling 2 sports. On top of that, of course, you have school and friends and family. So you've been managing a lot for a while now. now. So when your schedule is packed, even now, and things start to pile up, discipline is often the thing that holds it all together. What are some of the small, consistent things that you've done, whether it's habits, routines, or even mindset shifts that have helped you stay disciplined through the chaos?
I think something that I carried over from high school that helped me was keeping work to the work hours of the day. So I would have sometimes practice 2 to 4 p.m., which is right in the middle of the day, and then I'd have a night class. I know the second that I leave for practice at 1:30, I'm not doing anything the rest of the day because I'm going to be tired. I'm going to want to go home and shower and eat in between my practice and my class. And then once I get home, I'm not going to want to do work. So in high school, I used to do the same thing. As much work as I could get done during the day, like while I'm sitting there during free time, the less that I have to bring home, which is good. So I don't even remember having to do much homework my junior year of high school because I use that. And now that I live so far again, it's very good to separate the work and home life just because now that I'm home, I'm not sitting here expecting to try and get things done. I can just relax. I can take a shower. I could talk to my roommate. I could watch TV, anything that I need to unwind instead of now it's 10 o'clock at night. I got home, I showered, I ate, but I still have stuff I have to do. And I know I'm not going to do it to the best of my ability because I'm exhausted from my day. So keeping everything to a certain area of my life definitely helps.
Absolutely. What's the best way to do that? Of course, you have that mindset of, I'm going to get this done as much as I can during the day. Or there are some sort of systems that you have in place that help you, not falter.
I think having the library, I know not everyone likes it, but having that as a resource is good because it's very empty in the morning. I like to do my work in peace and quiet. If I have stuff that's not really that important or I could do leisurely, I'll text my friends and say if anyone wants to come to the library. But when I know I have to lock in, I go by myself. And back when I was playing, we would have early morning practice in the winters. So I would hold myself accountable by bringing my backpack to campus too, and not just my tennis bag. So I could go straight to the library. I'll get as much done as possible and then I'll go home and shower. So I'm already here. I'm going to do as much as I can until I absolutely have to leave.
I think that momentum really does keep you going. Also, the ability to just lock in, get it done, and get out of there. I think it applies to tennis, where you lock in for each point and then you either win or lose. You deal with that, you lock in again. So that dynamic of being able to lock in and clock out of there is really important and a direct reflection of the sports that you play and the mindsets that you embody there. And we get so used to carrying our entire life on our backs. You have your sport bag, you have your book bag, you have everything that you would need for an entire day so that you can just go in, get everything done, come back and get the well-deserved rest.
Yeah.
I think that also one of the things that I've carried with me from my time as an athlete is how to say no, how to protect my time and energy. You have to say no to parties, trips, even hanging out with friends because you've got early morning practices or you have a game to get to. And it's not always easy, but it is definitely such a transferable skill. And I think a lot of athletes learn this early on. I mean, you're 12 years old saying no to sleepovers that everyone's excited about because you have a game the next morning and that is more important to you. So just that level of prioritization is instilled pretty early on. For you specifically, in a world that constantly asks for more and more of our time and attention, how do you choose what to say yes or no to and what to prioritize, even with relationships, friendships, all of that sort of stuff?
I think for me, a lot of the time it depends on one, who the plans are with, because some people obviously are more, I wouldn't say exhausting because I don't want to talk about my friends as exhausting, but you know what I mean, where it's, I need to be up here when I'm hanging out with them. And if I don't have that, I don't want to ruin their night for them. So yeah. I'm willing to take a step back and say, I don't want to just sit there and kind of be quiet for a few hours and leave early because I know I have something tomorrow. I'll just let you guys have fun and you can tell me about it tomorrow, which is disappointing because you miss out on things. But at the same time, I know that I'm prioritizing myself and I'm prioritizing them by saying, I'm not going to hold you guys back from having your night be fun. And then knowing what is at stake the next day, because I think sometimes I would be up late before a match. So it's not necessarily I need to sleep before. It depends what I'm doing and then what I'm looking forward to, because if it was a match that I know where we beat them last year real bad, like 7-0 or something, I know that I could easily win this match. As long as I'm ready to do that, it doesn't matter what I was doing the night before, as long as in my head I'm ready to compete, because physically I know I can still do it no matter what. Which, again, not very great advice, but I know that for me, I can handle it physically a decent amount of time, even with 4 hours of sleep, just because I was used to doing that for so long, playing two sports. So, but my roommate, however, she plays softball. She is I'm in bed by 10 p.m. for a game I have tomorrow at 1 p.m., which respect that too. Me, I could be up, but to each their own.
Yeah. And I think that is what makes your advice good, because there's so many people on that spectrum, right? There'll be people who sleep at 8 p.m. and then there's people who are staying up till 6 a.m. because either they need to or they just ended up not being able to sleep. So I think part of being an athlete is that when you know you have a commitment the next day, there is no way you're not going to show up. You follow through always. Doesn't matter if you're sleeping on time or if you're not. And I completely understand what you mean by exhausting. It's not that the people are exhausting. It's that how much mental capacity do I have today and how much do I need for tomorrow versus how much can I give today. So I think it's almost about prioritization of filling your own cup before you fill other people's cup of socialization. And that's really important advice, especially for younger people. Even if you do miss out on something, it's totally fine. At the end of it all, if you are prioritizing your mental health, that's so much more important. And there's definitely always a give and take in that situation. Oftentimes, it isn't really the physical side of training that wears you down. It's the emotional and the mental load that sort of can sneak up on you, especially when you're constantly pushing and performing. So, was there ever a point in your journey when any of your sports started to feel more like a burden than something that you were passionate about, that you loved? And what do you think would have led to that shift? And what did this season of life teach you?
I think a lot of people go through that, at least in waves. Even if you carry out with your sport as long as you can, you feel it all the time. I remember back in middle school, even when I would have tennis after school and I'd be on the bus ride home, I'm like, this is the absolute last thing that I want to do today. Even though last week I loved it, what is wrong with me this week that I just don't want to be going? I would cry to my mom, I have period cramps today, I don't want to go. And she's like, you're lying. You end up going, and then because you have no choice, again, like you said, you just have to show up. And then I'm not playing well because I'm not in the mindset that I want to be here. And then especially for tennis, you do certain reps when you're not fully locked in and focused, and you actually make yourself worse because you're teaching yourself repetition of something that's incorrect. So I would show up and I'd get lazy. And now I'm playing a match on the weekend. I'm like, why can't I make the ball? Oh, maybe because the past 5 days of practice, you were practicing something that wasn't correct. And now you're using that in the match and wondering why it's not working. So I go through that a lot. But then also for basketball, there comes a point where especially certain settings of sports get exhausting. And especially with March Madness going on, I think about how much fun I would have had playing basketball in college. And I miss it so much. But I know that if I was doing it, I would feel the same way I felt 5 years ago when I quit. So I need to know that that's the best thing for me. And I'm allowed to miss playing, but sometimes you have to let go of things that just aren't any fun anymore.
I think your point about tennis, when you're like, I just don't want to do this today. You love the sport, but some days you just don't like your routine. And I think for me, it showed up in a way of, oh, it's raining out today. I'm so glad.
Especially for tennis, there would be slight rain. I go, I hope it pours. I hope it pours because I need the day off.
You've put it really well that you sometimes just need to leave things behind that no longer serve you. And you are still allowed to miss the sport. And I think this is something that a lot of people go through. Honestly, sports are a part of your identity. You're breathing, eating, sleeping that sport every single day for years on end. And then all of a sudden it isn't there anymore. And it's easy for us to remember the highlights or even look at other people happy and playing the same sport that you once played as well. And you start to question your choices. But I think that's such a hard balance to maintain in and of itself, of first of all deciding at a young age that this is not for me anymore, and then sticking by the decision that you made. So I'm wondering, what is it that sort of led you to that decision of this is not the space for me?
I think it's a lot of factors, definitely. One very easy is just getting injured all the time kind of gets annoying. It's not even full injury. I know people who tore their ACLs and ended their careers, which is so sad. But even just playing tournaments every weekend and getting knocked into the wall and pushed over and waking up with bruises and having to limp around the house, it kind of gets old. Especially when I have other things I have to do. Like, I have to go to tennis practice now, and I can't move my body. And again, doing reps that aren't correct teach you the wrong thing. So I can't bend my legs now because my legs are sore. So I'm hitting the ball too high in the air, or I'm jumping at it instead of setting my feet. And I'm wondering why I'm jumping in the match. So that kind of flows into everything. And I don't miss that. Oh my gosh, I do not miss being sore every day. Also, the community kind of gets at you. I've had plenty of teams that are great and I have no complaints about. I think just in high school, it can get to be a lot because the people that you're playing with are also typically your friends. So when you're seeing the same people over and over and over, and then you get frustrated with them on the court, it's hard to have that separation. So I'm hanging out with you this weekend, but you just made a horrible pass to me and blamed it on me in the game. And now for some reason, I can't get over that because we can't separate this anymore, which is kind of juvenile of a mindset because you should be able to have that separation and you should be able to be happy for your teammates, which I think is something a lot of people typically struggle with. But over and over and over. And then the coach being able to feed into that kind of stuff where if I get blamed for something, it's now the team against me because the coach said it and they just want to play. So you're not going to disagree with someone. I had a natural stopping point too because COVID happened my junior year. So I just decided not to pick it back up again. But I think that's a few main reasons why.
Yeah, absolutely. It's especially snarkier when the coach picks a side. From your experience, did you ever feel that you didn't feel seen or supported by either your teammates or your coach? And how did you get through that?
I have a million of these examples, but there's been times where even we understand that coaching staff is short, obviously, especially for tennis. If you're playing on a million courts that are all next to each other, you can't possibly be at every court giving every player what they need. And I completely understand that. But there's been times where I am losing pretty bad and I just see my coach standing at, I wouldn't say favorite player, but someone who obviously there's a little bit of a favoritism there, and just standing watching while she beats this other girl up pretty much, where she doesn't really need you there for the support. She's not asking for any sort of advice or help from a coaching standpoint, but then there's 3 other courts that need it and we're all just looking for some sort of boost to help us get back. And you can't, obviously, I'm not going to say I lost because you didn't help me, because that's also not fair. It's my own fault that I lost because I didn't play well enough. But again, having a coach come in and even not even give you advice on, oh, your backhand's off, do this. It could even just be a little reset of, I finally spoke to someone, I took a second away from my own brain, and now we can get back into it, is sometimes what you need.
Yes. It's not just the fact that you didn't play well, it's also that your mindset is flickering in the midst of that really important game. And seeing you being left high and dry by your coach can add fuel to that fire that's already in there. And our brains race, especially during a game. You're thinking of so many different things, of course, related to the game, but your mental aspect of things needs to be really crisp and clear. And sometimes when it goes down in the ditch, you need a second by yourself or with someone who will just be like, reset, who'll come in and give you that advice. And that's what you expect a coach to do. That is really important for coaches to also consider, that one thing that you may say to a student can either make them win the match or at least get them close to winning the match, just based off of positive affirmations and positive reinforcement. That's just how the brain works.
Mhm.
And that's quite helpful, especially for a student athlete navigating so many different things at the same time. Yeah. You've talked about navigating some tough dynamics just now and feeling unsupported at times. And I think a lot of women in sports experience this way beyond the game as well. One thing that comes up a lot in conversation with female athletes is the double standards, where the same behavior from a guy is seen as passion or leadership, but from a girl, it's seen as too much. Have you experienced anything like that, of this contrast firsthand?
Based off of my last answer, I'm the kind of person where if I'm in my head, I do need a moment alone. I would turn and face towards the fence and maybe talk to myself like a crazy person, or I would hit my shoe. Like that's just my way of saying, get back in it. I use it as I'm grounding myself. I can feel myself hitting my racket on my shoe, and I know that like I am here right now. My feet need to be moving because I can feel that in my feet right now. I do the same thing when I need to bend my knees. I hit on my leg, like the top of my thigh. I need to bend my leg. And then that's how I think I need to do this. I'm in the match now and I can feel it on my leg from where I just hit my leg and go, oh, I need to bend my knee right here. That's how I would do it. But a lot of the time when I get quiet like that and I start to get in my head and do those things, you're self-deprecating and you're too much in your head. You're unfocused, or you don't have good energy. Like your energies, they talk about posture, body language all the time of you look sad, you look upset with yourself, you don't look like your head's in the game, and that's what's losing it for you. When, at least in my case, that's what helped me get back in it, of giving myself that moment to kind of not sulk, but to sit with myself and be a little upset for less than a minute and then get back in it. But then I've seen male players do the same thing. It's like, oh, he's so streamlined. He's really thinking. I can't imagine the wheels that are turning in his head right now. Like he's cooking up something so fantastic, but he's also just being quiet. I'm like, so I'm being pathetic and I have poor body language and I'm self-deprecating, but he's sitting there and he's a genius and he's cooking up his next move. He just needs a moment to himself to recoup. Like that, I've had that a lot.
Wow. I think that's exactly the experience that I've had as well. It's quite hard to deal with those double standards. How do you think that you dealt with that?
I feel like, at least for me, when I was still playing here, I kind of got a little out of my zone, and I definitely said too much on the feedback side that I probably shouldn't have said. Obviously, worded very respectfully as
Yeah.
possible, either in a meeting or saying, hey, can I speak with you for a second? But I remember one time where I was told that I wasn't cheering enough, or that when I'm on the court, I should be cheering for other people that are also on the court. Oh, I was like, oh, okay, I'll start doing that. So I started cheering. It's like, you don't have enough passion in your voice. You need to actually hype people up. You just sound like you're doing it to do it. So I was like, okay, I'll cheer more. So I got to inspiration from the men's team, who used to yell so loud and they'd shake on the fence for their other players, and they're saying things that are so oddly specific and weird that you would just never hear. Obviously, it didn't go all the way to that extreme, but something like that. Let me replicate that because he's hyping that up. He's saying, wow, they have so much passion for their team. So I do it, and then you're being obnoxious. Like, that's not how you act on the court. So I think I had a conversation about that and saying, hey, I don't understand what you need from me, and I want to do what you want from me. But
Yeah.
when you're saying that all of these options are all somehow incorrect, I don't know what you need. So can the blanket statement please just tell me and I'll do it. So I think
Yeah.
conversations like that, if you have someone who's willing to receive that kind of conversation with you, would work fairly well. Sometimes they work. Sometimes I'm just out of my league and I should take a step back. And you know what? That's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just feels like you're like being pulled from different directions, and you're like, okay, so I can't be myself. I can't be this example that you want me to be. And when I'm in the middle, you say that I'm sulking. I feel like, especially when you're younger, of course, you were in college during this and you have much more of a sense of self at that point. But for younger people to experience this, for younger women to experience this, it can have them curl up and curl away from their coaches or their teammates just because they're maybe embarrassed about how they are or how they should be and how they're not being. And I think it's so important also for coaches and other teammates to realize to let people be themselves. And I'm hoping we see more of that in women's sports now. But yeah, going back to your point of how you had sort of a natural flow of saying goodbye to basketball during COVID, I feel like that kind of turning point, along with the support that you felt from your team or the lack thereof, can be a turning point that can really shift how you look at the future, especially when it comes to making big decisions like where to play in college and which sport to play in college. So what factors helped shape your decision when choosing where to play and where to continue your sport at a college level? More specifically, what do you wish more young athletes understood about picking the right environment to grow in? And that's not just as an athlete, it's also as a person, and it's beyond rankings and prestige.
Well, I was considered technically a walk-on because I didn't want to play anything going into college. I just wanted to go where I got in some place that I enjoyed. I liked the campus, and then have a complete reset. But my dad said, no, 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 no. If you don't play a sport, I know you're not going to go to the gym, so you have to do something to keep yourself active
Mm,
and hold yourself accountable. My dad emailed my coach from home and said, here's the schools that she applied to, and here's their coach's contact. Can you send them an email and say that we have a recommendation? And it just so happened that they actually did have spots on the team available. So I just had to send in a tryout and they said, yeah, you're good. So to me, at least, I'm grateful that I didn't go through with recruiting because I could have. I've seen a lot of my friends, especially for tennis, go through with recruiting and they don't play anymore either. They stopped playing freshman, sophomore year and they transferred schools completely. I know so many people who went to great programs and then transferred to just go to a party school because they're like, I'm done with this. I don't know why I did that in the first place. So I think it's really important that you actually consider a place where you know you're going to like the school if you like the sport or not, because if you want to leave the sport behind, you at least know that you have a home somewhere and you don't have to
yeah.
uproot your whole life and leave. But also, my dad and I talked about this all the time with specifically a lot of my basketball teammates who went on to play for 1 or 2 years and then quit. It's you're going to these big name schools just because they reached out to you and you feel really, really special, obviously, when
Yeah.
someone's reaching out saying, I'm from a Division 1 school and I want to come watch you play. And
Yeah.
now I have an offer for you. Do you want to come to the school? Of course, because it sounds phenomenal. But then you show up and you're not even hitting the bench. A lot of people just, and it's upsetting, but no matter how good you are, you have to see that you're going into a program where you're going to play because that's really going to make or break your experience. If you, there's nothing wrong, obviously, with not being the best person on the team and being in a program where your teammates can challenge you. I think that's really
Yeah.
important. But most people that I've seen, at least, or spoken with that have negative experiences playing in college all went into programs where they didn't see the court. I think it's important to say, remove the name, remove the prestige, remove how great the team is. Do you think that you will have fun at that school and do you think you'll actually play? Because it's so much more fun showing up to a 6 a.m. lift when you know that you're one of the better players on the team because you feel like you need to be there and you've earned your place there.
Absolutely. And that's such an important thing to consider. I didn't have that experience of going to college and playing a sport there, but I think this is something I wouldn't have thought of, especially to begin with. And for me, I grew up in India and you're not even visiting the school. First of all, like you're not going on a campus tour. It's really important to ask all the right questions as well and see who else is on the team, maybe even see how they're playing and all of that sort of stuff. How are international students able to do that? Because they're playing in their home countries and they know their level, but how do they know if they'll even get a chance to play? Do you think that if these questions were asked to the recruiter, that would be a positive reflection on them, or what's the dynamic there like?
There's always the need to be so highly professional with recruiters. And I remember one of the main coaches I went to for basketball, his main advice was if you are on the bench, you can still be recruited because the first thing that people look for is how do you act when you're not on the court? So I think asking questions about being able to contribute to a team environment and seeing where you would fit, it's not necessarily a horrible way to approach it because especially if you're saying, where do you think I would fit in this lineup if I were to join you? That could open up the conversation of, well, if I was first off the bench, here's how I would contribute to both the team on the court and the team community off.
And also just letting them know that I'm here and I'm ambitious and I'm passionate about this sport. That wraps up our main section of the podcast. I just want to end with a few fun questions. The first one is, what's one strong opinion or hot take you have as a woman in sports? Something that people don't talk about enough but should.
Ooh, this is a hard one, actually. I feel like I already kind of touched on this earlier, but the hot take of just not everyone needs to have the same kind of preparation for competition, even though I've been on so many teams where they say you need to do this and this and this and this. So when we're on the bus for tennis, my old coach would make us journal things. And so many of us would say, that doesn't really help me visualize what I need. I understand and I respect the concept behind it, but that's not how I work. So now I'm doing double because I have to do the journaling for him to show that I care. But now I also have to do the mind work that I need that actually works for me. So double of that. Then plus the sleep. And sometimes I know people who don't even like to listen to music warming up. So it's things that you can't even control because if the whole team wants to have a speaker on the court and you want to be in silence, you look like you're rude and you're not friends with everyone for having your own headphones in. But really, that's just how you practice and how you're getting ready for yourself.
Yeah. That's a good one. There's no cookie cutter regimen for getting ready for a game. Okay, and then I'm going to end with the final question, which is, which sports person has inspired you or been your role model and why?
I have a lot that come to mind. I think Brittany Griner is one. She plays in the WNBA. I grew up watching her when she was at Phoenix with my dad on the TV all the time. And I feel like she's more inspirational, not just because she's a good player, because everyone in the WNBA is obviously a great player, but I think she's been given a lot of slack, especially from the media. I go on Twitter and it's just horrible things. I think it's more inspirational to be able to play at the level she's played, having been dealt such a horrible card by everyone watching, especially being in the WNBA. People are already saying horrible things all the time about this isn't real basketball, or you see like the average 5'6", 19-year-old guy saying, I could 1v1 her and I'd win by 30. Stuff like that where it's just complete disrespect, and being able to still play, win all these awards, be such a great player and ignore all of that, I think is really great.
Absolutely. That's awesome. That concludes our podcast. Thank you so much, Isabella, for having these conversations with us and for being here. Your story and your opinions are extremely valued. And I'm so grateful that you're here and you're talking to us about all of these important things that people don't really talk about. If you guys enjoyed this episode and related to this, share it with a friend. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube at Game Changer Podcast, also on Instagram. And yeah, we'll see you for the next one. Thank you again, Isabella.
Me?